Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Late-night legend Paul Shaffer performs live with the Annapolis Chamber Orchestra tomorrow night at the Maryland Hall in Annapolis. He joined me to preview the concert and share memories from his prolific career from Saturday Night Live to The Late Show with David Letterman. Hey, Paul Shaffer. Hey, thank you so much for joining us on WTOP in Washington, D.C.
Jason, I can't tell you what a thrill it was. And my yoga appointment got canceled anyway.
This is better than doing a downward dog, you know?
Oh, man, have you ever got that right? Speaking of downward dogs, no, I don't really mean that. Well, what a segue. But, I'm about to do a big concert. I hope that we're going to be talking about it. But my conductor, I've always wanted to say that, I'm like Sammy Davis Jr., used to have his conductor, Mr. George Rhodes, man.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, my conductor's on with us is J. Ernest Green. I call him Ernie. Ernie, are you there?
I am here, Paul. How you doing?
Great. You know, Ernie reads music, actually. And so I'll be able to ask him about anything, Jason, that I can't answer. Anyway, we're both happy to be with you.
I'm thrilled.
Yes, welcome Ernie as well. We're gonna have a triple combo here with the three of us. This is great.
I love it. I love it.
And we should tell everyone, you're both you'll be playing at the Maryland Hall in Annapolis on Saturday, February 17th. And I believe it's presented by Live Arts Maryland is the group. It's a cool spot. That building is, they put on some cool stuff. But yeah, what's in store for this specific show? Like the Annapolis Chamber Orchestra? Like what kind of stuff are you going to be playing?
Well, I'll tell you, I have done. I have an orchestral show now that I can do. It's all pop music, of course, and R&B. It's my favorite, stuff. Anything that I loved throughout my life that was orchestrated to any degree, and stuff that influenced me since I was a kid. I get to do all of that stuff with the full orchestra. I start off with Barry White's Love's Theme. And how can you go wrong after that?
No, it's all downhill.
And then I do just, and I end up with Day in the Life by the Beatles, where we get to hear the orchestra do that amazing, lowest note to highest note that they did on Abbey Road or wherever it was, Pepper. And I sing, some used to say, Paul, don't sing. But again, with this orchestra and Ernie conducting it, I can almost do no wrong. Now it's also it's turning into you still there, Jason, or I'm boring myself, but
I am still here and I am riveted. So even if you're boring yourself, don't worry, you got an eager audience in me.
Well, there's more to it in that. This is Ernie's. Ernie, I don't know, Ernie. Are you the founder of this organization?
No, I'm not. I'm not the founder, but I'm now the artistic director. I've been here for a long time. I've been here for 35 years.
What's the organization called again? One more time.
Live Arts Maryland.
Yeah, no. So Live Arts Maryland is a beautiful artistic organization, and this is a fundraiser for that. It's sort of Ernie's stomping grounds, though. You do, besides the chamber orchestra, you've got what else do you have there? A chorus?
We have we actually have a couple of different choruses. We have a chamber music series. We have an early music series. So we really try to do a lot of different things over the course of a given season. And I have been honored and just thrilled to work with Paul for a number of years now. And when I approached him about coming down here to do this this fundraiser for us, he said, absolutely. And I got to tell you, this is one of the most fun concerts I do anywhere all year long. It's just an evening
when you
of
work with me. Oh, you don't have to say that, but certainly,
no, it's true. It's true.
Working with me is the most fun you could possibly have. I understand that.
That is the reason it's the most.
It is totally humility.
True. But here's the thing, Ernie, Jason, Ernie's got, he's bringing in this huge chorus for this thing too. So when I do, the Righteous Brothers tune with that wall of sound, forget it. It's going to be a knockout. I bring my own musicians from New York, rock, a rock rhythm section.
Hmm.
Uh, but and the other great thing is we're turning it into sort of a family night because Ernie's two grown kids are going to participate. And my wife is from that neighborhood too. She's from Arlington, Virginia, and we were married in Alexandria, actually.
Oh
So
wow. Where? All
yeah,
right. Where in Alexandria?
at a lovely Reformed synagogue, the name of which I can't remember.
But
And then
that's still cool.
we had our dinner, wedding dinner at the Willard Hotel afterwards in D.C.
Wow.
So,
Right near the White House.
and yes, indeed, right near the White House. Long story short, I've got a nephew, um, Julian, who lives in that neighborhood now, who's a cellist. And when Ernie heard him play, I can't remember how old he is. Is he 12?
He's
What?
around there.
About 12. When Ernie heard him play, he said, well, he should be in the show. So not only Ernie's kids, I'm going to have my young nephew playing uh, with us, and it's going to be a sort of a family night. And my goodness, I can't, it's going to be so much fun. It's just a few days away. It's just coming Saturday night.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. And and just so I have it, because I'm gonna write an article with this too. What's your nephew's full name? Is Julian Schaefer or Julian different last name?
No. Well, my wife's maiden name is Vasapoli.
Okay, I can spell that.
It's just Vasapoli.
Got it.
Simple as that. And so this is her brother's son,
Gotcha.
and his Julian Vasapoli.
Yeah.
Okay,
He's
great.
really good, Jason. I mean, this kid, I heard him play. He was playing a movement of one of the Bach cello suites, and I stopped listening. And my first question was, how old is this kid? Because he plays so beautifully.
Oh,
Well, I'm going to have him playing Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve.
of course. That
That's
is
all I'm
that is
telling
one of the great songs ever. It's looping in my head as you say it.
Well, and looping is the right word for it, isn't it? But yes,
Oh, yeah, it's circular. It's circular.
yeah, that's one that I do in this show. And as well as lots of other favorites, or interesting orchestral things. But all rock, all with a beat. And I got a great drummer named Clint DeGannon, who plays everything in New York right now, coming with me, and people from my old studio. I kind of got my start being a studio musician here in New York when that kind of thing existed. It's all computerized now, but this is something that I and my old friends we're all going to get to play together, and with Ernie's orchestra.
Yeah. Yeah. And these charts, Jason, this show, one of the things that's amazing about it is that the charts that Paul had done for this symphony show are just beautiful. They're just beautifully done, and they're symphonic, but they never lose that energy and drive and sort of the raw power of the tunes that they're orchestrating. The whole thing just really kicks.
It's going to be so much fun. And Ernie, what are the names of your family members that are playing in the show?
Alec Green and Ella Green, and Alec plays guitar and sings. He's a singer-songwriter in the area. He actually plays a lot of the DC theaters. He plays in the pit for the theater circuit. And my daughter's name is Ella, and she is a musical theater singer. And she's living down in Nashville, and she was coming up for this concert anyway because she really wanted to see Paul and the concert. And she got conscripted into singing, so it's great.
Now she's featured in it, so
yeah. Oh, that's right. She's singing "It's Raining Men."
Well, that's a big dang deal to be included in this show.
It really is. It really is.
So we're talking about we're talking about sort of the next generation of, your family members that are going to be playing. But if you can remember, take us back to when you all were rising musicians. Paul, where did you grow up? What Canada, right?
yes, Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. It was called Fort William then.
Yeah.
And I still remember my first symphony concert that I saw. There was no local symphony, but the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra, right next door, came and played, and they played a Hungarian rhapsody that I still remember to this day. And Seiichi Ozawa was the conductor. He was in Winnipeg at the time. We just lost him last week, I think.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah.
So I sure remember that. But I was taking piano lessons at the time, and that's why I went to the symphony with my theory class. But then when I heard rock and roll on the radio, it was all over. My classical career was flew out the window, and I started playing. This is pre-Beatles.
Yeah.
When I started listening to the radio and hearing the Ronettes and a song like "He's a Rebel" by the Crystals, and all these things. I don't go. Well, yeah, I go pretty far back with this show. It is kind of historical. The show, and hysterical at the same time. But you got to come and see it. You'll see my whole history.
Yeah.
Jay Ernest, he is a military man, isn't that so?
No, well, not me, not a military musician, no.
But you participate in military events, being in Annapolis.
Well, yeah, we've done things with the academy. I'm one of the oddball civilians around here.
Somebody the official title, oddball civilians.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to do it.
Exactly. One of the things I thought was funny when I first met Paul, we started talking. I grew up in Cleveland. And I used to get my dose of rock and roll by listening to a Canadian station across the lake in Windsor. And Paul got his dose, I think, Paul, from Chicago, right?
Certainly, WLS AM radio in those.
Yeah, AM. That's right. So I was listening north, he was listening south.
Exactly. All the same records, though.
Yeah, it's great stuff. Yeah. It was, and for me, I started off as a trombone player, and I too heard rock and roll, and that was it.
Did you listen to Godspell, not knowing that Shaffer was involved?
I did. I grew up with that recording, and my sister, when she was younger, I mean, Godspell was like constantly playing when she was at home and in the car, constantly.
My goodness.
So, Paul, you're going to get to meet her. She's coming down to the concert.
Hey, Jason, where do you live?
I am in Frederick, Maryland, so not that far from Annapolis, and our station, of course, is right there in DC, so like around Chevy Chase, Bethesda-ish. So yeah, it's not too far.
Well, did you ever do that show? Were you talking about a show that I guess sort of got me started up in Canada when Stephen Schwartz, the composer of it, and now the composer of Wicked, of course.
Yeah.
Back then, that was his first show, and he hired me up there in Canada to do it. And then I did it for a year up there. Did you ever do it? Are you a musical comedy performer, perchance, Jason?
Not a performer. I'm more of I kind of got into this racket from I'm like a movie buff kind of a guy, but we interview all the Broadway stars and stuff when they come to town. So I'm pretty well versed in all this stuff. I know you were like Gilda Radner and Martin Short and Eugene Levy and Victor Garber. Like that whole thing was stacked.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. All of those people you mentioned were in, and Andrea Martin, another great talent.
Yeah. In that original Godspell, you were music
in Toronto, the Toronto Company.
Wow.
We all still remain friends, except poor Gilda, no longer with us.
Yeah.
But yes, it was an unusual and that composer, Stephen Schwartz. Well, of Godspell, he was way more than the composer, which he seems to be in almost all of his shows. He's just a director, conceptualist, every single thing. And he cast that show up there. I was 22. He hired me that day at the auditions to conduct it, which I'd never done before. I was 22. He was about 24, 25. That's it. But just hired me. I wanted to talk to that piano player, and he hired me. And then he hired Martin Short, Eugene Levy. These funniest people, he spotted them.
Wow.
Andrea may be the funniest of all of them.
Except for yourself, of course.
Yeah, but I think, she taught everybody, all of them, how to be funny, when I recall it.
That's so cool. Well, thanks for that trip down memory lane. And speaking of which, I mean, I have to add, my listeners will kill me if I don't ask about the Saturday Night Live band stuff because you were there for what, 5, 6 years, something like that. And
The first 5 years,
first
yes.
five, yeah, like the early days of that show. And I think you didn't you not only were you in the band, I guess you became so popular you'd pop up in some sketches like Bill Murray's Nick the Lounge Singer. I think you started even doing some touring stuff with Belushi and Aykroyd as the Blues Brothers. Like there's a lot of stuff that came out of that. But yeah, memories of um when how did they say like you know what you're great in the band, but you're photogenic here. We need you we need you in some sketches, baby.
I was just trying to sneak on camera, basically, and I had known so many of the writers and performers from before. For instance, Gilda
Yeah.
Radler, from Godspell Toronto, although she originally from Detroit, but here she was on SNL. Aykroyd from Toronto, I had known. Various writers like Michael O'Donoghue, the evil Mr. Mike, uh, from the National Lampoon. I started working with them as soon as I got to town in '74,
Mm.
1 year before SNL. So I don't know, I was just sort of around, and none of us had any personal lives at all at the time. No girlfriends or anything. We just nothing to do, but we were at the office all night, come thinking of things coming up. So I was just sort of around. And in the fifth season, I was one of the first featured players, sort of a supporting actor that they gave billing to. So that's my story.
I love it. I love it. And yeah, I
That's a
mean,
great story, Paul.
it's a great story. Our listeners are eating this up, and I'm sure, yeah, all those connections would, lead to little bit parts in Spinal Tap and Scrooge and all kinds of movies and stuff. But before we run, we have to ask about well, probably what you're most recognized from is the David Letterman stuff. The world's most dangerous band. I guess it was Late Night with Letterman from like what 82 to 93, and then once you do the move over. I guess what CBS Late Show with David Letterman, another I don't know how many years till 2015 or something like that. What?
Exactly right. That's
Yeah.
all exactly right.
What made Dave so damn good at what he did, and why? I mean, why? I mean, I thought you guys just had the best chemistry. I mean, it's one of those iconic TV pairs. I mean, you think of Conan and Weinberg and Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon, but like yeah, I mean, what why do you think the two of you work so well?
Well, certainly remembering how Dave Letterman never threw away or walked through, as they would say sometimes, never walked through a single show. Everyone was important to him. And so we had to pick up that slack and keep up with him. That's one thing. I also have a recollection of him getting some criticism when he first started. I said his interviews weren't great, very funny, but his interview skills, weren't so great. Well, he used to go up after the show was over, the taping, about 6:30, whatever. He'd go right back up to the office and start watching those interviews and say, what the hell did I do wrong? And just pouring over them, beating himself up almost over them until he got great at it, which he did. So that's one thing. And as far as me, I don't know. He said he hired me because he saw me do one of those Bill Murray lounge singer things you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And he just, man, people talk about carte blanche, but he really did give it to me. He said, if you have anything to say, even if I have a guest, he said, just go ahead, jump in. What boss would say that? I don't know. But he sure was encouraging to me, and I found I could be funny with them and improvise with them the way I couldn't do anywhere else because he was really that encouraging.
That's great to hear. And Ernie, I want to make sure we keep peppering you in throughout this interview too. What did you remember about like the Paul Dave banter, like, or did you have any favorite sketches, the top tens? I don't know. I want to know
Well,
your memories of Paul on that
I
show.
used to, I used to, it's funny, now years later that I'm now getting to work and make music with Paul, because I would come home from Annapolis, where when I first took over this group, which when I first took it over, it was not what it is now. It was this small little community group, and I had this idea that I could build something out of it, and I've been able to sort of do some of that. But I would get back from Annapolis and I'd drive back to where I live north of Baltimore, and as soon as I got in the house, um, I would turn on Letterman and watch Paul and Dave, and there were things that I loved. I loved sort of the slapsticky stuff, but I also, and the things like the things that Dave would do, like Paul. Am I remember? Didn't he have the Velcro suit?
He sure did.
Yeah, I mean, I used to watch that, and just that was so funny, and I loved the interactions between Paul and the band.
Yeah.
But Paul really and Dave, it was infectious, and you kind of I remember I would sit there every single night watching it, and it was the kind of thing that you couldn't pass up, and then you would have this incredible music because that band was so good. And it's because Paul has this incredible way of pulling things together super fast and really making the bands that he plays with, whether it's here or elsewhere, just really play and make the best music they possibly can, because nobody wants to go do any less than the best.
Yeah, that's
Um,
high praise. And Ernie, I know you just said you lived up near Baltimore, and I remember. Speaking of which, Paul, I remember you all did like for when Cal Ripken broke Garrick's streak. It was what, like the top 10 reasons Cal needs a day off. There was like a special thing at Camden
That's,
Yards.
that's right.
oh
That's
yes,
totally
yeah.
right.
But did you have any favorite of the top tens? Where, I mean, I'm sure there's a million you did, and they all probably run together at this point after all these years. But is there like one that you were like,
Well,
that's my favorite?
sometimes there were musical top tens.
Yeah,
Certainly the Beach Boys comes to mind.
yeah.
We had the Beach Boys doing just the numbers, just singing in number 10, number 9, but in their style.
Right.
Uh, and it was pretty good.
Yeah.
But the other thing about these top tens has just entirely slipped my mind. So there, I don't know what else to say.
Paul, the one top 10 that I remember, and I don't remember when it was, but I remember I remember the top 10 that was on the with Mick Jagger.
Oh yeah, it was great.
It was things he's learned after, 50 or 60 years, whatever. I just sort of remember that one.
Well, yeah, it was the actual Mick Jagger, and one of the items that he's learned was, I've learned that when you hear a song called "Moves Like Jagger," you don't make any money.
That's right.
That's
That was
fantastic.
yeah, that was pretty good, and the wonderful soprano, uh,
Oh yeah.
who young gal Ernie, help me out because I can't remember
Oh,
it.
not Renee Fleming.
Renee Fleming. That was, I think, now that was my favorite.
Oh yeah.
She sang, for kind of various funny top 10 items to operatic arias,
Oh, that's right. That's right.
little pieces of 10 of them.
Yeah.
And boy, I mean, it was challenging for me, obviously,
Yeah.
keep up with that.
So, there's an Annapolis connection, Paul, with Renee Fleming and you, because Renee Fleming, before she was really famous, sang down here with the Annapolis Chorale, who's some of our singers are singing with you this weekend. Renee sang a Beethoven 9 down here in Annapolis. like back in the early 80s.
Well, she was a good sport. I don't know how many, operatic sopranos would do what she did. But
Yeah.
these things were pretty off the wall. We had her singing,
Oh my God.
so God bless her.
But beyond the top tens, I feel like that's everyone. That's where your mind goes to when you think of the Letterman Schaefer stuff. But like beyond the top tens, did you have any favorite recurring sketches that Dave would do?
Uh nothing comes to mind. I mean, I liked him, of course, when he was just improvising, being himself,
Yeah.
and when he would get into a vibe sometimes where something that he really found funny. That's when I found him the funniest, more so than the written bits.
I gotcha. Okay, when it was a little more off the cuff and trying to keep himself
Well,
from
because there was
laughing.
nobody faster than he. So it was just great to be able to watch him work under those conditions.
Very quick and witty off of the top.
Yeah, nobody can top it. And I gotta think that when we see these things, that the guys do today, and we're even doing then, they were Letterman-esque. Not to say that he wasn't just as influenced by Steve Allen and, of course, his idol Johnny Carson, but when we would do these things, sometimes they were totally not rehearsed, and sometimes the whole show would turn on a dime. If somebody in the audience said something about, that set Dave off, he would just say, "Oh, let's go with that. Let's not have the first guess yet. Remember what she said? Let's go out on the street. Let's demonstrate." Whatever it was.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else really does that. They pretend it's spontaneous, but Dave really was.
He was great. We've had Leno on here a couple of times. Well, we've had Letterman. We interviewed him when he got the Mark
Oh
Twain
yeah,
Prize. We had the Mark Twain Prize on the red carpet.
right. Yeah.
But I was just gonna say to your point is when we interviewed Leno a couple times, he always, I know everyone always paints it as the the rivalry or whatever to replace Carson or whatever, but Leno was complimentary. He said that he always said Dave he always called him a wordsmith. He always admired how he could string phrases together and how quick he was. So
Yes, he did, and of course, in return, Dave used to have Leno on regularly.
yeah.
Back in when we were on NBC, and always respected his stand-up. He said he was a master at stand-up, and Dave was very particular about his stand-ups. He didn't throw compliments around like that because
Right.
he had been one.
Well, I think it worked out well for the both of them and
Yeah,
for you.
it really did. History will show that it absolutely did.
It was a rivalry. A rising tide raises all boats, So,
Yeah,
and final seconds. Is it true that you got offered George Costanza in Seinfeld, but you didn't return the call, or is that apocryphal?
I got offered a part. It wasn't necessarily going to be George Costanza. Maybe it was. I don't know.
Right.
Because it wasn't. I don't know if they had 4 cast members yet or not, but I just did get a call.
Yeah.
On a message at the office. It didn't even seem like I had to read for the part. I wasn't sure, but it seemed like it was just an offer, and I just, I said, Jerry Seinfeld, come on, what kind of show could he possibly have? Maybe the biggest mistake anybody has ever made in show business.
That'll never amount to anything. Only
That's what I said. That's what I said. And it took them a long time to turn it around. Apparently, when you read about what they went through, and their show about nothing, and they made a pilot, nobody liked it initially, all this stuff.
Yeah.
So who knows? I certainly wouldn't have wanted to give up my job with Dave Letterman. These days, people do both. I wouldn't have known how to do that back then.
Again, I think it worked out pretty well for all involved.
Heather Locklear, remember, she got away with murder. She had 3 shows going at the same time. Heather Locklear.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's
How do you
right.
juggle all that? That's ridiculous. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, we got to see you in Schitt's Creek cameos. We've seen you in other shows pop up. So, it wasn't Seinfeld, but it was still, you're all over the place, Paul. So
Jason, I can't get away with anything with you.
It's all, you got
People
to.
remember that. You seem to have caught everything.
But hey, you've been really generous, and we should end with Ernie. Isn't this a big anniversary year for the Annapolis Chamber Orchestra? Are you 50 years
This
now?
is it's the Live Arts Fair. It's the 50th season. It's the 50th. I have not been there for all 50. I just want to say that I have not been there for all 50, even though some days in the morning I look like it.
Thanks for clarifying that.
I just want to make sure that everybody knows that. But this is a group that has really been this is an organization that has sort of framed my career, and it's one of those things that no matter where else I go to guest conduct or what else I do, I always sort of think of this organization as my home. This is my home base. And I'm bringing Paul here is honestly, it is a dream come true, because doing these concerts with Paul is like something I just love it. If my wife was listening behind me, she would be nodding, because she hears me talk about this all the time. It is just a joy to work with Paul.
Well, I'm going to be roasting Ernie a little bit.
Please.
Because after all, it's his family's going to be there, and it's a perfect audience.
Exactly.
You don't know what I know about you, Ernie. I know some things.
Uh-oh. Well,
watch out. That's all. Fair warning. That's all.
All right. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Roast the hell out of him. Again, it's Ernie and Paul Shaffer will be at the Maryland Hall in Annapolis this Saturday, presented by Live Arts Maryland. And I won't say, what are the top 10 reasons to come, but what should we, and the number one reason why we should come out is
it's going to be a total gas.
There it is.
The last money, it's going to be a stone gas honey.
Oh yeah, there you go. I love it.
I love it. Hey, thank you both so much for doing this. This was fun.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us, Jason.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.